So, let's talk about a mind-bending philosophical thriller called After the Dark. It kicks off with one heck of a question. What if you had to decide who lives and who dies to save all of humanity? Yeah, it's a film that dives deep into this classroom thought experiment to explore the super dangerous games we play with logic, our emotions, and even with reality itself.
In the film, it doesn't waste any time. It throws this question right at you. But here's the kicker. It's not just some abstract hypothetical. Nope, it's a final test. Imagine this. A nuclear apocalypse is about to happen. You're sitting in a classroom with 20 other people, and there's a bunker nearby, but it only has room for 10. So how do you choose? Who gets to live and who gets left behind? Is there even a right answer here?
You know, you'd think a scenario this intense would be set on some kind of battlefield, right? Well, wrong. It all goes down in what should be the safest place imaginable, a philosophy class in Jakarta. And for this group of international students, it's their very last day of school. Their professor, a really mysterious guy named Zimit, has cooked up a final test that's, well, it's unlike anything they've ever experienced.
So Professor Zimit basically stands up and says, okay, enough with the abstract theories. He tells them it's time for a practical test. He wants to run a thought experiment, a big group exercise in imagination, really, to force them to look this ultimate ethical dilemma right in the eye.
And the rules for this little game, they are cold. I mean, brutally logical. First, a nuclear apocalypse is just minutes away. Second, there's a bunker that can keep 10 people safe for 1 year. But remember, there are 21 of them. So to figure out who gets a golden ticket, each student gets a random profession. And their value, their very right to live, is judged purely on how useful their skill is. The goal here isn't just to hide out, it's to have what it takes to actually restart the entire human race.
All right, so the first experiment kicks off. And the instruction is simple, right? Use pure, detached logic. Your worth is based on your usefulness. But, you know, when human lives are basically poker chips, even the coldest logic starts to crumble under the weight of fear and chaos. And yeah, it gets messy. Fast.
The choices they make are just ruthless. The farmer, the engineer, the doctor, of course they're in. They're useful. But then you have the poet. Zimit just straight up declares her useless. And then, in this absolutely shocking moment that shows you who's really in control, he pulls out a gun and shoots her. He says it's a mercy to spare her from the radiation. Right then, you know, this isn't just an experiment. This is Zimit's game, and he's playing for keeps.
And this is where that pure logic idea just completely falls apart. Zimit's violent move makes the survivors see him as a huge threat. So what do? In a total panic, they lock him out of the bunker. But Zimit, he's got an ace up his sleeve. He reveals this fatal flaw in their plan. Turns out, he's the only one who knows the exit code. So he gets the last laugh as he dies outside, and they're all trapped. 1 year later, that perfect, logical, useful little society runs out of air. Complete and utter failure.
You'd think total failure would make him reconsider, right? Not Zimit. He's completely unfazed. He just resets the whole thing for round 2. The jobs are the same, but this time he adds a little twist. He gives them secret personal traits, things designed to clash with their useful roles. And the result? Instant chaos. James, the farmer they need for food, turns out he's gay, which Zimit says kind of messes up the whole procreation plan. The doctor? Oh, she's secretly carrying a lethal virus. Inside the bunker, Zimit's logic just twists into straight-up tyranny. He starts trying to force people to swap partners to make more babies, which of course leads to a rebellion. And when the soldier, Bonnie, stands up to him, his ego just can't take it. In a total fit of rage, he yanks open the bunker door right as there's a blast outside, killing everyone. Another massive failure, and this time, it's all because of the leader's own messed up humanity.
So, let's recap. 2 experiments, 2 total disasters. It's becoming painfully obvious that Professor Zimit's whole brand of cold, calculating logic isn't just flawed, it's deadly. His system just doesn't work. Period.
And that brings us to the third and final round. By now, the students have had it. They see Zimit's game is rigged, that his logic is just a weapon he's using against them, so they decide to throw out his rulebook and try something completely different.
The real turning point is when James figures out the deck is stacked against him. He realizes Zimit didn't just randomly deal him the gay farmer card. No, it was a calculated move to humiliate him. And in that one moment, the whole illusion just shatters. Their professor isn't some neutral guide. He's a manipulative player with a very personal agenda.
That's the opening Petra, the top student in the class, needs.
She steps up, she sees right through Zimit's whole act and announces, "This time, I'm in charge." And in this amazing moment of quiet rebellion, all the other students agree. They shift their trust from their professor to their friend. The power in that room just completely flips.
And Petra's way of choosing people? It's a total rejection of everything Zimit stands for. She doesn't pick based on usefulness, she picks based on humanity. So the poet is in, the opera singer is in, all the creators. She's building a society that's not just about functioning, but about feeling. It's a community built on culture and hope. And the one person she leaves out? You guessed it. The guy who created the failed system in the first place, Professor Zimit.
Petra's plan is not just compassionate, it's strategically brilliant. She's one step ahead of Zimit. She even disarms him, taking his hidden gun before the round even starts. And when he tries that same old trick with the exit code, it doesn't work. Why? Because it turns out Bonnie, the soldier, has a photographic memory and memorized the code way back in round 1. Zimit is totally powerless. And inside the bunker, this group doesn't just get by, they actually thrive. They fill their year with art, with music, with a real sense of community. They don't just survive, they live.
And Petra's whole philosophy is summed up perfectly by something she says in the film. This is really her core argument against Zimit. She basically took a gamble that focusing on the quality of their time, on finding joy, was actually more important for survival than just the boring mechanics of rebuilding. It was never about the structures, it was about saving the soul of humanity. Okay, so the thought experiment ends, and Petra's team wins. But just when you think it's over, the film pulls back the curtain, and we finally learn the real truth behind this whole twisted exercise.
Because here's the massive reveal. This was never just about philosophy. Not at all. For Professor Zimit, this was deeply and dangerously personal.
So get this. It turns out Zimit and Petra, they were having an affair. But Petra was breaking it off because she's actually in love with her classmate, James. So Zimit, completely eaten up by jealousy, creates this insane, elaborate philosophical test for one really petty reason. He wanted to prove to Petra that her new guy, James, was an illogical and useless choice. He wanted to show he was the superior, more rational man. The entire apocalypse scenario was just a desperate, intellectual temper tantrum designed to get her back.
So the class ends, the game is over, the students all leave, and Zimit is just left there, all alone. His little manipulations have been totally exposed, and his ego is just shattered. His attempt to intellectually bully everyone failed spectacularly. Petra made her choice, both in the experiment and in real life, and it's crystal clear.
But the movie isn't done with us yet. Oh no. It leaves us with one last, really haunting question. So in the very last moments of the film, Petra gives Zimit a final goodbye kiss and just leaves him for good. We see him back in his room, alone, completely defeated. The camera just holds on the shot of a gun sitting on his desk. And then the screen cuts to black and all we hear is a single, sharp gunshot.
And this is the movie's final mind-blowing trick. It plants this little seed of doubt in your mind. What if the reality we just saw, the affair, the jealousy, even that gunshot, what if none of that was real either? What if it's all just another one of his imagined scenarios? One last, desperate thought experiment playing out in his own head as he tries to deal with losing Petra.
And that's the question the film leaves you with. Where does the game end and reality begin? Was that gunshot real, or was it just the tragic end to one final lonely game inside his own head? It's a really powerful final thought, about how we use logic and our imagination, not just to build our worlds, but sometimes to build our own prisons that we can never escape from.